any day that I get to hang out with my guy Daniel Carlson is a good day. So let us begin here, Daniel. Scale of 1 to 10, how angry is AJ going to be that you beat into the studio at the start of the regular season?
A 12.5.
Oh,
yeah, he's going to be livid.
I will get a text. I feel like I'm going to get a snarky text either
Absolutely.
today or tomorrow. Oh, Daniel gets to come
I already told him
Okay.
he's coming up here. Because I'm like, hey, I want you to hear it from me first, okay? Eddie, I'm sure he feels bad about it, but hey.
As a friend of all specialists, though,
yes.
you know, everyone, I guarantee this. AJ will come up to the studio in the coming weeks. It'll be great. But when you have a day like you did on Sunday, we had to bring you up. So I was telling you on our way up here. So going back to Sunday, 14 points total.
Yep.
Done that a few times in your career, but there's only been 2 games in your career where you have notched more than 14.
Okay.
Do you happen to know what those 2 games are?
I'm going to take one guess.
Okay.
Because, like you said, you briefed me a little to try and get me ahead. I want to say Chargers. Is that one of them? 21.
Close.
20. Is that, no.
Go the other way.
22.
Chargers 22.
22 because it was after,
yes.
It was January 22.
Yep, late.
Okay,
yeah.
so 21 season, 22.
There you go. Chargers
overtime,
22.
we had 2 field goals in overtime, obviously, so that helps a little.
17 points.
17 points.
That's number 2 on the list. What's number 1? And it's funny because when I was telling you, I was like, oh, 1 came to mind for me. I didn't even have to think about it.
That's
this was
the one.
game.
Yeah, that's the obvious one.
You think the Chargers?
I thought the Chargers.
No,
that was just a big game.
That was a big game.
Yeah, that was a big game.
The one that I'm thinking of is, I guess, was obvious to me, but perhaps not obvious to you.
No,
which is kind of interesting.
What is it?
We had 18 points against the Cowboys.
Oh, Thanksgiving.
The Thanksgiving game.
Okay, another overtime game.
Yep.
Yeah, I need the overtime for a lot of these games to
Yeah.
just get the extra field goals because
Yeah.
we had 2. Did we have 2 in overtime that game? We had the game winner.
Did we have 2?
No, we just had the 1. So we had 4 in regulation. 1 to send it to overtime, and then we had the game winner.
Love it.
Okay, yeah.
We gotta tighten up
Those
your
were both
stats, man.
great
They were
games.
great games. But
Both
it is,
wins,
it is exactly.
huge,
Most
huge.
importantly,
Points are good.
huge wins. But it is funny though that I was like, oh, one of these is so obvious, and then you went to the complete other one, which is kind of interesting.
We got the playoffs. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
I mean, Thanksgiving, turkey leg, that was
Yeah.
a blast too. That's a memorable game.
And I've told you this, I
forgot
think.
about all that.
The front page of the paper that day of you know, doing the turkey leg.
Cowboy hat.
Yep, with the cowboy hat is actually framed in my office. Shout out our PR director.
I love it.
Going back to Sunday though, like obviously a busy day for you and AJ and everyone, right?
Yeah.
But like in terms of like kind of, I don't want to say like approach, because I know like you kind of pride yourself on like everything is the same, right? The system is the same, the mechanism is the same. But like in terms of like a game winner, I guess just in terms of like the operation, offense is going down. Like what does that kind of look like for you and the crew?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a constant dialogue on the sideline of like, hey, you know, what hash would you like it on? You know, sometimes if it's a windy game, that matters more than other times, kind of like certain yard line. You know, like if you're going into a stiff wind, like you don't want the offense to just drive down at the 30-yard line and you're like, hey, like this is a really tough kick all of a sudden because, you know, so everybody's just having the same idea. Obviously, the offense did a great job making it pretty easy to, you know, have a shorter kick and stuff. But I mean, as far as my side, like it really is pretty similar to any other kick. I'm warming up in the net, kind of just doing my thing, staying busy. And then, yeah, we had a quick conversation of like, hey, which hash? And they put it on the left hash and did a great job with that. And then we knocked it through. So, I mean, there's nothing magical about it. It's pretty normal. And so much for that situation was obviously clock management and see how much time we can get down on there.
You know, game winners, I'm sure in some respect are like a little bit different, right? You know, like obviously
you
there's
feel the moment.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, do you feel it a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think everybody, you know, that's a kicker or a quarterback, any person in that situation, like, has that pressure of those game-winning drive type deals. Like, I think you feel it, but then once you like get out into the, you know, actual play itself, that kind of fades away, and you're so focused on what you're doing. But I mean, I think that's like, being nervous is good. Like it's part of the fun stuff. Like if I just didn't care and like wasn't nervous at all, my job would honestly be kind of boring. Like I don't get out there as much as other guys, but because like at times like the adrenaline's high and like it does matter. Each kick, every point matters. Like that's part of the fun of the job is just like, hey, getting to, hopefully produce your best football in those big situations.
Do you keep any of the footballs? Like, you see,
Yeah.
like, what, you keep them?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain kicks throughout or the jerseys even at times, and I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do with them. But it's just like one of those where I'm like turning my jersey into the EQ guys, and I'm like, actually, could I keep this one? And they give me a hard time about it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll frame it. Maybe I'll give it to someone. But, at least like, hey, I might as well hang on to it.
Yeah, and like I think those are cool. Like I've talked to guys too. Like it'll be so much, and I try to do the same thing. Like I've gotten a little bit better about like keeping the game programs and keeping this and that. Where like 20 years from now, you're like, you know what?
Something
I'm glad I
remember.
Exactly.
Because like I mean, whether it's like the Cowboy game or something, like those games, like right now, I don't try and think about it a whole lot. I mean, even like we said, the one to send us to playoffs, like that was a big game personally for me, for the team, and it's nice to think back on it later, and I don't want to think about it too much right now. I want to think about, the game we have this weekend. But later on in life, when I'm old and bragging to my grandkids or something, like I'm going to want to be like, here's the football that I kicked in this situation, whatever it is. And like, thank God for the internet. We can pull up some tape too while we're at it.
This is true. At what point during the year, like, do you think is like maximum, like not leg strength, but like when you're like, all right, like I'm in the groove, like I'm in the zone, like in terms of like when we're rocking.
I mean, I want it to be
17 weeks, 18 weeks.
I'd love for it to be 17, 18 weeks plus.
I guess maybe a better question is like when, like at this point now, I guess does the leg feel better than it did in like July? You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think through preseason and those preseason games, that's like, a lot of vets don't get to play in those for obvious reasons. You don't want to risk injury, but like specialists, we get to play in those a lot of times. And I love that because it gives me like a final check before the season. I'm like, all right, I feel good. Head space is all good. My body feels good, ready to roll for the season. And then, I mean, obviously you do hope towards the later end of the season, like December, getting towards playoffs, like that's when you're peaking, I guess, if you're ever going to peak, just because like, hey, those games obviously feel like they matter a little more because a lot of times it's for a playoff spot. And then obviously if you go on a playoff run, that's when you want to play your best ball. But yeah, I mean, I think that after preseason, through preseason games, those are the last checks. I'm kind of like, all right, I'm where I want to be. There's a lot of kind of trial and error in the off season to get the technique right, get the kicks feeling good, and it's you have the time to work through some kinks during that period.
Now you know how much I love teams in general,
yeah.
right? And I was going back and I was looking at some numbers the other day just about the success rate that guys are having across the league from 50 plus, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's crazy.
It's wild.
Crazy, so
right?
I heard a stat, this morning.
Like, do you think that's more of, hey, small sample size, or this is like guys are just better and more equipped to kind of be a weapon in that regard?
I think it's a little of both for sure. I think the new kickoff kind of changed field position a little, where like now there's a little more chess on like pinning guys deep, and then now there's going to be more long kicks maybe. We'll see how it plays out for the rest of the season. It is a small sample size, but I do think kickers, I mean, I think every player is getting better throughout the league each year. I mean, the recovery's better, the information's better, and guys are just learning how to do better at their job. And I mean, you can see just stats-wise with kicking, it's gotten better and better since the early days, and so it's just a higher standard now. And I mean, obviously, those long kicks are the ones that matter the most, I think, because of one, field position, and two, if you can help your offense only have to get 20 yards instead of 50 yards to get the same result, that's always a big plus.
And it's just wild to think about because you're not that much younger than me, but like I remember when I was a kid watching football, like 50 yards like felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
It was like a huge benchmark. It's a big number. Not saying that it's not anymore, but like just I guess how casual guys seem to be able to do it now is pretty wild.
Yeah, and I mean I hope that it's hard because I mean obviously like that next step would be the 60-yarders, and you see that sprinkled in, and a lot of it's situational just because like the risk of giving the other team the ball on the other side of the 50 it's a bigger risk. So doing that in the first quarter is maybe like nobody's there yet, but like eventually I wonder if that's going to be a possibility because like so many guys around the league, we can kick those kicks, but it's like, all right, can you kick them consistently enough, and is it worth the risk of kicking a 64-yarder all of a sudden in the first quarter, even if you're, only kicking 75% of them, like that's probably worth the risk. But if you get that one kick, that's the 25%, like all of a sudden you turn it over. So that's the next threshold. But I mean, I think NFL kickers you're seeing it more regularly, 58, 59-yard field goals, just kind of casual, not casually, but casually.
I want the 60-plus yards just for the vibes, man.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's what I'm hoping
I want to see you get
like,
trotted out there for a 68-yarder in the middle of the second quarter.
And
why
obviously,
not?
let the analytics and the coaches make the right calls. But like that's obviously like what I would hope for is like any chance we get around the 50-yard or 50-yard line for a 60-yard kick. Like I'm hoping to be able to kick it. But obviously you got to let the analytics play. But I do think kickers are getting better and guys are getting better, and so eventually someone has to try it.
For sure. I mean, and candidly, it helps too when you have a guy like you or some of the guys around the league where you can look at the kind of like proof of concept and say, hey, these are the numbers from 50 plus. Like this isn't a dude who's a year in and still trying to kind of figure out the mechanism a little bit. But have you guys think you've gotten used to the new kickoff rule yet? I know we're only a few weeks in, but
it felt like, I mean, especially like first preseason game when I actually saw it like in a game, in a stadium, it felt like I was a rookie all over again. Like it was so weird to kind of be the only guy back there and just see a wall of 10 guys like 5 yards. It's just like seeing it visually and feeling it in the stadium was really weird. Since then, I've gotten a little more comfortable, but it's still strange for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the newness of it all.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's produced some good plays. It's obviously produced more returns than the last few years and stuff. So like, I think we're still learning how it's going to be played out, but I mean, I'm hoping that, eventually I know fans are probably a little like conservative to like change, but hopefully we'll figure out, hey, this is a really exciting play. And, obviously the touchback is still like teams are having to be safe because they just don't know what this return is going to look like yet. And so, hey, the easy option is to just kick it out, but eventually, hopefully we'll start falling in love with all these dynamic returns and kicks and things that make a big impact in the game.
And at the end of the day too, like I've talked to a bunch of people, like it's more jobs for guys, right? It's more opportunities for guys to exactly. Great for teams, great for opportunities to kind of get your foot in the door and hopefully have a nice little.
And I mean, we got some studs on teams, so like it's great for them. They love it obviously because they get more opportunities to go hunt down the football and stuff, and same for returns. Like it gives them a chance to, hey, you're guaranteed a lot more returns this year than ever before. So those returners back there are excited, and then all the teams guys that are getting to be a part of that, making a big impact for the Raiders.
And if it's good for teams, it's good for the Raiders, it's good for all of us. Absolutely. I love it. But before we get you out of here, back home now finally, a bit of a scheduling oddity where you guys have been on the road the past couple of weeks. Home opener at Allegiant Stadium, outside of the crowd and the fans and everyone there to kind of reach you guys home. Kicking indoors again. Biggest difference between kicking outside and kicking in the climate-controlled palace that is Allegiant Stadium.
Love Allegiant. Yeah, I mean, anytime you just one less factor to worry about as a kicker. You just don't have to worry about the wind or anything. That's the main thing. But also, AC feels good. We in Vegas know you need the AC and stuff. So no, we're fired up to be at home. Obviously, it's just one of the best environments, if not the best environment in football right now. I mean, it's electric every time. So I'm really excited to get that crowd going and hear them behind us. And obviously, they've been great on the road too. But it's going to be good to be home. Yeah, it'll be nice to be home. I'm sure for you guys, get to sleep in your own bed and not hopping on a plane, all the good stuff. Kids get to come out and check out the whole deal. So this was great. It was good to see you again. Tell AJ that we'll get him up here one time eventually. Yeah, later. But you get the first tally of 2024. Goes to my guy Daniel Carlson. Awesome. Dude, congrats on an awesome performance on Sunday. More importantly, congrats on a big win. Absolutely. It was great to see you. We'll catch up with you soon and keep doing your thing, brother. Appreciate it, Eddie.